and we are here live with Shayla and William Black. I'm so happy to have you guys here. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having us. We're super excited.
Tara, good to see you as always. Glad to be here.
Thanks. And let us know where everyone is tuning in from as usual. I'm always really curious to hear where in the world you guys are. You both are in Texas, I'm correct?
Correct.
Yes. And I'm here in Toronto as usual. I'm getting really excited to have a good chat today. Going to talk about all things romance and building up that romance writing career and how Shayla has been able to have such a successful career throughout all of these years. So I'm going to read out your bio to you, if bear with me. I don't know if that's an uncomfortable thing to do, but I'm going to read it out because it covers everything.
Should I hum along? Maybe a little music to go with it? No.
Exactly. So we have Shayla Black is the New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of more than 80 contemporary erotic, paranormal, and historical romances. Her books have sold millions of copies and been published into a dozen languages. As an only child, Shayla occupied herself by daydreaming, much to the chagrin of her teachers. In college, she found a love of reading and started pursuing a publishing career. Though she graduated with a degree in marketing and advertising and embarked in a stint in corporate America, her heart was with the stories and characters, so she left her pantyhose and power suits behind. Do you still have them?
No, they were the first thing to go in the trash.
She burned the pantyhose. Let's be clear. She burned them. Yes.
Nice. So Shayla currently lives in North Texas with her wonderfully supportive husband, her daughter, and two spoiled tabbies. In her free time, she enjoys reality TV, gaming, and listening to an eclectic blend of music. So I'm so happy to have you both here today. It's such an impressive bio. I'm glad that you actually burned your pantyhose and power suits.
It was so freeing.
Nice. I love that. So thanks for joining. We have Val is coming in from Caledon in Ontario. Thanks for joining live with us. And Shayla, congrats on your latest release, Wicked as Seduction, which is book 5 in the Wicked and Devoted series. But you said more than 80 books. So what number is this book?
I literally stopped counting. I know that's weird, and I need to count again because it's over 80, so it's maybe even over 90 at this point. And I know I'll probably do some sort of milestone thing at 100, which may occur in the next year or two. So I probably need to be with that and have people celebrate with me because it's exciting. But I'm always so focused in the moment and what I'm working on right at that time that I don't stop and be like, 1, 2, 3.
I mean, what if you pass 100 and you don't even know about it, though?
I know. I've thought about that. And I also have 2 books that were previously published that I have forever buried that'll probably never see the light of day again.
I see a to-do list for William.
Yes.
I will count the books.
I like that.
I will count them, and I will get a number.
Got to get a spreadsheet going with all of these titles.
It would probably be a good idea anyway, right?
Yeah. Do you have any not unwritten? I mean, of course you have unwritten books, but do you have any books that you haven't published? Like, is there anything that you did write but decided not to go forward with publishing?
Nothing that is finished. Everything that has been finished has been published at least once. I have a couple things in draft, and they're not things that they're things I know what I want to do with it. It's just utterly a lack of time. And every book, because I'm actively writing right now 5 series. Wow. So some other things, for instance, I have a book that I had out back in, I want to say 2009, maybe, called Naughty Little Secret. It's just a standalone. It's about a 50,000 word contemporary. It's still one of my favorites, and I had always wanted to write a book, for instance, about her sister. So it's one of those things on my to-do list, but because it's not one of my 5 active series, finding a place to do that is a challenge.
And how do you find balancing writing 5 series at a time? Because some of your books are kind of on the more steamy side. Some of them are not. Like, do you ever accidentally write a really raunchy scene in a book that isn't meant to have one?
I let things happen organically. So okay. I have, for instance, in my Read Family Reckoning series, which is a straight contemporary romance series, some plots and characters and setups call for a steamier book, and then some don't. I'm a big fan of just letting those things be organically. I'm not going to try to pigeonhole them or put them in a box or try to make something it's not. If a book is more emotional than steamy, then it is what it is. If it's more steamy than emotional, it is what it is.
Nice. So you don't stick to the theme of the series. You let the book and the characters drive you.
Yeah, I mean, my ideas tend to go more steamy anyway, but that's not to say that, I mean, I have books. I mean, I have actually one book in the Wicked and Devoted series that there's not even a kiss in the entire book, much
Oh,
less
wow.
a sex scene, just because it's an they're forbidden to be, you know, in any way have a personal relationship in an office setting. And so they don't. There's a lot of conversation about it and a lot of thinking about it, but neither one of them wants to lose their jobs, so they don't. And so I have an entire book where there's nothing but steamy thoughts.
Nice.
They make up for it in part 2 because those Wicked and Devoted is all told in duet. So in the first half of the duet, there's nothing, and in the second half, they make up for it.
That's a good hook for the readers, right? You're like trying to get them along the whole way.
It really wasn't planned that way. You know, as I was writing along, I was like, are you guys going to like, no, nobody's going to cross the line. Okay.
Okay,
well,
let's be clear. Shayla is a tease. Okay. She is a tease from the beginning to the end.
It's true.
But she does give you the payoff.
I do.
So, you know, it's in the books reflect that.
Totally. I love that. So you've always kind of been a writer. So could you tell us a little bit about how you got your start with your publishing career? It's an illustrious career at this point. So yeah, I'd love to know how you got started.
I was that kid who was not a reader. Nobody in my family read. I didn't even enjoy reading. I think the first book I actually enjoyed that somebody assigned me in school was Catcher in the Rye. That was the first book where I was like, oh, I don't hate reading. Because prior to that, everybody was like Nancy Drew and Little House on the Prairie.
Dry reading.
And no offense to anybody who loves those, they just weren't my bag.
Right.
I couldn't get into either one as a kid. And all of it was just torture for me. And then the irony of this is I remember as a kid having a babysitter across the street, you know, that I would walk there after school. And she had been reading Kathleen Woodiwis's Shanna at one point, and I think I was in like 5th grade or something like that. And so I was like, I want to read that book. And she was like, oh, no, you can't do that. So when I was in college, I had to go.
Don't tell her what she can't do.
Yeah, don't ever tell me what I can't do. So when I was in college, I had to go to a new and used store to get a textbook I couldn't get anywhere else. And I saw a copy of Shanna sitting there. And I was like, I'm going to read that. So I picked it up and started reading it. And then I was like, okay, and now I found something that I enjoy reading. And I went on a reading tear for probably 5 or 6 years.
Nice.
Just reading. And finally it was like, as I was getting out of college, I mean, I did have 20 years of a corporate job, but there was that part of me that was like, this is really what I want to do. And I was trying to figure out how to make that happen in a traditional publishing environment. And then finally, in early 2009, my thought is every day I work for somebody else, I'm betting against myself and I'm done doing it.
Well, what made you think like that? Just because it's the lack of control over everything?
That, and you don't have, you know, because he was still working and traveling. And, you know, we had at the time a young daughter. There was that part of me that's like, I'm spending fully a third of my life, well, more than that, really, doing something for somebody else instead of doing something that fulfills me and makes me happy and gets me where I want to go. Why am I doing this?
Nice. Yeah. I love that you still call your daughter baby, but she's not a baby.
She's not a baby. She's almost 25.
You have no idea, Tara. You have no idea.
But she's a baby to us. So
Dad, I'm 20 some odd years old. And I was like, I know.
But you're still baby.
Baby
So
Black.
Baby
Yep.
Black.
And she answers to it. And she wants to start her own writing career. She's graduating from TCU in May. And so she's going to follow in my footsteps. But I'm like, we can't put baby on your covers. We can't.
Oh, that's really awesome. Would you do a co-write together, do you think, or just kind of let her do her thing first?
I don't know. We haven't really talked about it. It's possible. I mean, anything's possible.
That's exciting. And William, will you be helping baby's career too?
Already am.
Yeah.
Working on some of the back end of it, you know, trying to get some things set up for when she is ready to launch. But I told her, I said, right now, I said, let's get you graduated.
Yeah.
Let's do that well. And then let's get a book written. And then everything else will fall into place. So.
Yeah. She has senioritis so bad right now. I'm like, you have 5 weeks. Focus for the next 5 weeks.
Totally get it. Jenna says hello from Kansas, and she'll always be baby, which for sure.
Yeah, Jenna's one of my besties, and she knows that baby is always baby.
Baby, nice. So let's go back to your kind of publishing start. So you started traditional and then went the indie route. Was that a big kind of jump off, or was that how scary was that back then? Because it wasn't. Now there's so many options that people can choose, and it's a bit more established, even though still scary. But what was it like then?
Well, so I honestly was hybrid for a long, long time. I didn't officially stop publishing traditionally until 2019.
Mhm.
So I first dipped my toe in the water. I had written some historicals. Those were my first books, and I had gotten the rights back to them. They were just sitting there. And I was like, okay, well, now that it's a thing and you can put them out, I'll go ahead and recover them and things like that and put them out. And it's otherwise they're books not doing anything for me. And the truth was, I had readers contact me and say, I had a print copy of this book, but I moved or it got wrecked or whatever. Do you have an ebook of this? And I thought, okay, so for the people who want this, I really had zero expectations that they would sell, and then they did. And I was like, this is a way for people to discover those older books that otherwise they would not have had the opportunity to read unless they happened to find one in a used bookstore online somewhere. So for a lot of people, and I got mail thanking me for making them available.
Oh, nice.
Because they were like, oh, this is one of my favorite books ever. And now it's like a comfort read. And now I can read it on my Kindle or my, e-reader or whatever, but it's available to me.
Well,
now.
remember back at the time too, I mean, for an indie author, getting it formatted was not only
so
getting
hard.
the text, but getting it formatted was just a nightmare. And then again, all the platforms that you were working with, everything was still in kind of its infancy.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we're rolling, right? It's a much smoother prospect, but it was tough back then.
It was, and it was a little bit like blindly groping through what am I supposed to be doing now, and not really understanding, especially the first print book I ever did. I thought I had to have it typeset. So I went and found a typesetter and had it professionally laid. I just didn't understand what was happening. And, you learn along the way, and that's okay. Like, everyone's going to make mistakes, even if you're putting out your first book, your 10th book, your 75th book. Like, there's always going to be mistakes. You just learn from them and pick up and move on.
Nice. Yeah. And so when you're saying you spent a lot of time as a hybrid author, what do you think are the pros and cons of taking that approach to publishing?
So there's certain things you just will never have control over. And I think two of my biggest frustrations were I couldn't control the pricing, obviously, or the packaging. I was fortunate in that, I wrote for Berkeley and I had the same editor, frankly, from 2006 until 2019. So I had a long-term, yeah. And so we had a great relationship, and I loved working. Awesome. Yeah, I loved working with Kate. She was fantastic. And so I never had qualms with packaging and distribution. Like, they were beautiful with all of that. But, indie allowed readers, especially, as voracious as romance readers are, to read much more inexpensively. So there was a lot of consternation, I think, about pricing in general and pricing strategy and things like that. So that was something that I couldn't control. And then actual production schedule, they build things into your contract so that you can't release a book that competes with their book without understanding that there's a certain amount of stacking that's actually a good thing. Yeah. But they would not want you to release a book 60 to 90 days or something like that before or after their book. So it would block out a ton of my schedule, and it would make it really difficult to do the releasing that I wanted to do. And it just came to a point where I was like, I need to pick.
But there's something about ownership.
Yeah.
There's something about owning the end to end, even with the issues that you have along the way.
And there are difficulties.
And hopefully rewards along the way too. But there's something about the end to end ownership that just put a twinkle in her eye, saying, I can control the entire thing and I'm responsible for it. But at the same time, it's an objective, and she reached for it.
And I understand a lot of authors who enjoy the creative process and not so much the entrepreneurship that comes with being an indie author. But I actually really enjoy business. I have some friends that I think we could get on the phone and talk business all day long. It's like the most exciting, weirdly interesting.
You do that every Sunday.
I do. Every Sunday morning I get up and I have a group of authors that I talk to. And that's, probably 2 to 3 hours every Sunday morning of just talking about business and where we're at and what's going on and things we're trying. And it's just really a refreshing conversation because I enjoy, like I said, the entrepreneurship of being an indie author.
And you must enjoy the supportiveness that you get from these authors too. I can't imagine the corporate world you left behind was the same. It's something that I always, I really admire about the indie community is that everyone kind of just wants to prop each other up and really support one another. So yeah, that's wonderful to hear that you kind of chat and share ideas every week with authors. That's really awesome.
It's fun.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of wondering, at what point did you were you able to sort of build this out as ultimately the family business? Like when did it become too much for you to be managing? Like when did William, you left your job behind too? Like how did you know when to do this?
Well, she made me a deal I could not refuse, or whatever that Godfather term is, right? But I'm sorry if you're asking how I got into this with her. You know, I was a corporate guy for 20 some odd years, and I had a pretty successful career by my estimation. But she came to me one day, and this was when things were really breaking for her. And Shayla said, okay. She says, I want you to sit down. I have a presentation for you, because that's kind of how I spoke, right? And she says, I have spreadsheets and I have PowerPoints. Really? And I'm going to demonstrate to you why I need you more here than they need you there.
Actually, what I said was, you going to work is costing me money.
Well, I'm telling you what I heard. Okay. So anyway, I saw the numbers. So I said, yeah, hardest decision I ever made, Tara. Hardest decision ever. It must have been
so scary.
I'm such an introvert. Hard to believe. I'm an introvert. And you know what? That's just what I've known forever. You know, the steady paycheck at the corporate job. Jumping into this though, I had one ace in the hole. 100% faith in her and her ability. And it just made it an easy decision, and it's made it easier every year, basically reinforcing that was the right way to go.
And I feel like never looked back.
It was actually the best decision for us ever, because otherwise kind of what was just, you know, not to get like deeply marital, but it was the other thing where I was so entrenched in my career and he was so entrenched in his, and it was like getting too easy to lead two different lives. Mm-hmm. So that was the other thing. We thought that we would get a lot more synergy out of focusing our efforts on the same thing. And and we're told a lot that there aren't many couples who can literally be in the same house 24/7, 365.
Oh, no, there were bets.
Oh, there were bets.
There were bets. And of course, my office is like on the other side of this wall. So
yeah, right over here.
so it was, how was that going to work? But it did.
But yeah, we never have. It's great.
It's a great story. The romance books bringing the kind of the marriage and romance not back together, but closer together. It's really awesome. So William, can you talk to us a little bit about, as you're very familiar with like the platforms themselves and the intricacies behind them. If an author was starting out, like what would you say, like to publish widely? What would you give as your starting advice, you know, just to learn the different platforms?
Network. It did me well and tremendously in the corporate life. It's helped me in this life as well. You have to have a network. And because if you sit down there and you can probably figure it out yourself, but there's a lot of growing pains associated with that. Now, a lot of folks will say, well, you know what? I understand this platform, so I'm just going to stay with them and I'm happy with that. Well, you're shortchanging yourself there, right? You've got to be diversified. You have to diversify yourself. But the way to do that is you have to learn these things inside and out. And oh, great. By the way, by the time you do learn it, it's changing again. Okay.
Right.
So
that's an important factor, I think, that we don't really consider all that much, is that you're constantly learning these platforms.
Oh my gosh. And there's such great resources out there for the indie support community that you can actually join and learn these things. But I got to say, it's going to be painful regardless. And you're going to have some learning curves along the way. But you and I were talking before, you know, a lot of these back end platforms are not user friendly, not end user friendly. And again, not to throw great things toward Kobo, which we love to do, but Kobo's fantastic from an author's perspective when you're looking to upload projects and manage those projects. Some other retailers aren't. But you know that they're designed by engineers, basically, and you can see that. But again, it's a learning curve. And once you've mastered it, and once you can stay on top of it, you're going to feel rewarded by it, because it takes you much less. It doesn't take you a day to upload everything. It might take you a couple hours. and manage the projects from there. So it's networking and learning where your resources are to help you out.
And understand that you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. The great thing about all the platforms is if you made a mistake and you uploaded the blurb wrong, or your coding is still in there, or you didn't put all the information, like, you can go back and redo it. Nothing is set in stone. And that's the other great thing about being indie versus traditional. Those things are kind of set in stone when you're traditional, and like, you can beg your editor to change them, and they might not. But this is something you totally have control over. So if it's not right, you just redo it and go on and hope for the best.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's great. And I like the networking aspect as well, because one thing I'm always trying to tell authors is don't be afraid to ask questions, email us. We're here to help. Like, this is our jobs, and it's in our interest to get your books on the store, you know. So,
and you guys are awesome at responses too. You really are. And it's rare. It's rare because you guys want us to succeed as much as we want to succeed on your platform. So
exactly. Yeah, this is a partnership. So yeah, we like to kind of view it that way. Lots of hellos coming in. So hello, everyone joining in the chat. Val has a question about your plotting, Shayla, that I will put up. So yeah, I'm just kind of curious about how do you plot in general? Like, how is this working for managing these 5 books? And Val wants to know, when did it become straightforward?
Never. That's just the honest thing. In fact, I was just having a conversation this morning with one of my author friends, Sierra Cartwright, about plotting and something that she started doing recently. And she actually had called me a few days ago and said, I'm trying this and I would love your, 2 cents about it, because I write super complicated. My romantic suspense duets are very, very complicated. And there's big internal, big external, lots of overarching plots in addition to plots that get resolved in one book at a time. Like, there's a lot happening. And so we were talking about plotting models, and I realized, I think I've used all of them at some point or another. I have plotted every single scene before writing a book. I have pantsed entire books. I've pantsed entire duets. Like,
what does pants mean?
Where you're just flying by the seat of your pants.
Oh, okay.
So there is no, and every book I've just decided has kind of its organic process, and some things are easy to figure out and it does become pretty straightforward. And then others, you really have to stop and think. And, I've actually recently weirdly discovered sometimes meditating before I write will actually help me see what I want to do. Even though I know roughly where I'm going, but sometimes the devil is in the details, right? So I have to figure out exactly how I'm going to get there. And so every book ends up being slightly different, but I would never say it's been straightforward. And people will give the knock of romance of being formulaic, but there's nothing formulaic for me, because nothing ever happens the same way twice, ever.
Yeah, that must keep it exciting. But also, how do you determine deadlines when you sort of are working like this? Because especially with indie, I guess, like, you have your own release schedule and stuff. So I know that you can always adjust them, but how does that change, like, reader expectation or anything?
I try to put most of my I try to give people long pre-orders. I try to give them, pre-orders about 9 to 12 months in advance.
Oh, nice.
And let them know. So for your favorite series, if this is a series you read, or you're interested in the next book in this series, like, here's how long you have to wait. Probably not too much longer. Like, I really, really dislike pushing out books. That said, I've pushed 2 out this spring. My dad has had a lot of health challenges, and it's been a time.
In Tara, middle of last year, I can remember Shannon and Rachel were here, and we were sitting and spreadsheeting 2023 and what those books would be, and some, ideas for release dates. And we have to do that far ahead of time, just to accommodate what's going to come down the pike, and then life as well. So,
because it's a whole operation, everybody likes to think it's just, you're going to go write a book, but Rachel and Shannon are my right and left hands. So, it all comes down to, there has to be covers and formatting and, getting out the word, getting arcs together and getting review people together, and, the Goodreads presence and all of these things.
And time to write the book.
Yeah, that have to happen. So it's a well-oiled machine, and everybody has to know their part of the operation so that everything can dovetail together and complete in the time that it needs to happen. And sometimes, you know, I'm the downfall right now because I've had my attention on other things, but by and large, everybody works well together. And that's our goal always, is to be able to say, if you're going to get a book on June 1st, you're going to get a book on June 1st.
Yeah, I think that's a very practical way of doing things, obviously for the things that are ahead, but especially with there can be a franticness that comes with indie publishing because of the speed of release. And I think that sometimes authors really don't put enough buffer time for life to happen. And I think if anything, throughout the past 2 years of this pandemic, we've learned that we're going to get thrown curveballs all the time. So yeah, I think that's really smart, and that's good advice for any authors watching.
And I feel like readers have become like, I've heard some authors talk about the reader entitlement, that, you know, readers have been angry when they've had to push out a book for some reason, but I've had nothing but lovely readers. And when I said, you guys, look, life has just been too much for me lately, everybody's been super understanding. Take care of yourself, take care of your dad, we'll still be here.
Because it doesn't happen all the time.
It doesn't.
It's an exception rather than a
don't
rule.
make a
So,
habit of this. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you have a super engaged base of readers that are like generally super fans. So
they're
like,
fantastic.
They're awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah. How did you start doing this? Like, how did you like create this engagement that you get? I know you guys do your live chats every week, which is probably like just really leads into it. But I wonder, where did it begin?
So I want to say it was in 2017. I had a group of authors over here, and at the time, Julie Kenner. She was, you know, in my house, and we were all, you know, just talking. And she does an occasional live in her group. And, you know, but she would do it like when she's cooking or grocery shopping. Like, she would always do hers on the fly, and like, kudos to her. But I wanted something more structured.
You need prep.
I need prep.
You need a spreadsheet and a schedule.
No, I literally just didn't want to be like, and I have no makeup on and a ponytail. Like,
that's what it is right there.
I'm just
camera ready.
Me.
Yes.
So I understand that.
It was a thing for me. So I just was like, well, let me try this. And so I started doing lives, and, you know, at first it just kind of started as Q&A, and I would make announcements and things like that. But it's really morphed into, when he joined me, it's really morphed into something else. And it's so funny now, because we've been doing it, and these people feel like, you know, my friends. I know a lot about their lives. We kind of, even though I don't see them on screen the way they see me, but I see their comments, and they tell me what's happening in their lives. And you know, some of them I actually have PM'd with, and they'll be, you know, they'll ask me questions, and I do my best. I have actually been a skincare consultant for some people, because my kind of hidden passion is makeup and skincare, particularly skincare. And so I've had some people say, you know, I have some skincare challenges, you know, can you give me some recommendations? And I, you know, we'll type them back and say, we'll try this and try that. And so it's
I need to hit you up after this.
So it's feel free. It's one of my favorite things ever. So I feel like it's not just the creation of superfans, which is fantastic, but it's also the creation of friendships I would not have otherwise had. So I feel really grateful to have gotten to know these people on another level. And then on top of that, about once a year, we do a virtual signing. So we're doing ours on June 11th this year, and so it's for every fan who wants to come, you know, and get a signed book, and we talk over Zoom. And instead of, you know, going to a book signing, they're kind of frenetic, and you get maybe 2 minutes with an author.
And the pandemic kind of
necessitated
from that,
something. Yeah. So now you can come to the virtual signing and get 20 minutes with me and about, you know, 2 or 3 other readers, and watch as I sign your books, and we'll chit chat. And it's just a fun time. And we spend a Saturday together, and it's turned out to be one of the things that we did out of necessity because of the pandemic, but we're continuing it because people love it so much.
Yeah, I think there's like a layer of authenticity that comes around with it, like the passion that you have, even just speaking about it now, with like talking to these readers and kind of building these relationships. And I think, you know, having William, you be part of it, you're giving people a glimpse into your life. You're not just trying to sell to somebody, you know, and I think that's really, really special. That's like a good group to have. So
you know, Tara, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. The best feedback I think I ever received, you know, we were at a book signing, I think it was in Florida,
mm-hmm.
and long lines everywhere. It was a huge, busy place. this fan came up, and I had recognized her from some of the lives, and she says, "Can I just tell you guys something? You're as authentic and real in person as you are on camera."
She goes, "You're the same
You're the
people
same
in
people.
live that you are on camera."
And I said, "You know what? Thank you for that. You know, acting is hard work. So I would never, I mean, that's
Ever.
people could sniff a phony from a long way off. And
Totally.
it's so much easier to be yourself. And that just gave me, and I know Shayla, the validation that what we were doing was the right thing. And it made us happy, and it made fans happy as well. So
And we try to agenda every week, and it usually goes out the window. So we stopped trying. We were like, and we're just going to.
We have talking points, which we talk around, you know, but that's
a lot.
Yeah, that's a game now at this point. Try and guess the talking point, right? We're avoiding.
Try to remember the talking point.
Ooh, that could be a betting thing.
Oh, it could be.
That would be cool.
You can have that one. That's my gift. Nice. So if an author was looking to build like a group of readers that are kind of this engaged, and not saying that you have to do the same sort of building a relationship on a personal level, but what would you say would be the first step in engagement? I know a lot of people talk about like the newsletter being a great aspect. Would that be the first thing you'd suggest?
I think newsletter is really important because it's the thing you can control 100%. Well, not 190.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't control how, your mail provider will actually, where it will dump the email in somebody's inbox or spam box, or like, you can't control that. But the messaging, what you want to say, and all that is really important. But I have a rule a long time ago, and my part of my corporate job, I came from training where you talk at people.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized early on when I was doing training that you do better to talk with people. When they're involved in the process, they're far more likely to learn. So I kind of carried that over into what I do. I don't want to talk at people.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the book. If you want to hear from me, that's kind of what the book is for.
Right.
But the rest of the time, I want to talk with you. And I feel like it humanizes you as an author in a way that I think otherwise it's difficult to do. And I know some people are introverted, and they find that level of, because I have some friends who are super introverted, and they're very, put off by the idea of getting on camera every week. I'm extroverted. It doesn't bother me in the least, but not every vehicle is for every person. There are other ways to talk to your audience and with your audience rather than just, spitting words at them all the time. And I think if you can find what's comfortable for you to engage with them on a more, still professional, but human level, then that's kind of the best of both worlds. And you'll get something out of it too. Like, believe me, it's so much more fulfilling to, instead of being like, I have readers, like I have these friends who read my books.
Yeah, I love that. And William, self-proclaimed introvert. How did you find being in front of the camera? Now you're a regular pro, doing it every week,
Tara, practice makes perfect, right? So my corporate life brought me out of my shell because I had to lead people and I had to present all the time. And boy, it forces you to do things. So that translated perfectly over to this, but this is a completely different dynamic, right? It's being authentic. In corporate life, you're not always coming off, you're trying to sell something and you may not believe in it. I believe in everything that we're doing here, and you want to be authentic at the same time. And so it really, practice makes perfect. And like Shayla was saying, when we have Wine Wednesdays each week, what really helps me a lot is we talk about the no agenda. We laugh about that, but the fans feed the conversation. The fans feed the conversation, and it brings even an introvert like me deep down out and want to converse and look forward to every Wednesday being live because these folks are so awesome. And
they're funny,
yeah.
and they're engaging, and it's like having a conversation with your best gaggle of friends.
Nice. So has the live signing, or not the live, live signing is the right way of saying that, right? On Zoom, virtual, that's the word I was looking for, my mistake. Have the virtual signings been sort of one of the main kind of positive takeaways that you've taken from like the pandemic and maybe not being able to reach readers? I know you've been doing these lives for much longer than this pandemic, but is this something that you'll continue on kind of doing it virtually to broaden the audience?
I always have felt like I would hear from readers a lot who would say things like, because you can't as an author be in every city every
And
year.
there's
Like,
a lot of things always happening.
right. And I have come to the point, in my life where I just can't travel the way I used to without it really wearing me down. I don't sleep well on the road. I don't write well on the road. I don't like being away from home.
You don't write on the road.
I don't
Let's be
write on the
clear.
road,
Let's be
period.
clear.
Like, I just don't.
It's hard.
I'm too extroverted. So when I get out of my house, I'm like, there's people. There's real people. We should talk. There's real people.
And there's a bar.
And there's a bar.
Exactly.
So I kind of have come to the point where I'm going to do 3 events a year, and that's and my virtual, and that's it. But it's not just even about me. I would hear from people even when signings were at the peak, and they would be like, but I have I work every Saturday, or I have small children, or I'm disabled, or they just couldn't. I don't have the money to come to an event like that, because by the time you travel and pay the fee to get in the hotel, and then you buy books on top of it plus your meals, and like, I understood some people just couldn't do that. And so in a way, the pandemic forced me to think a little bit outside the box and say, how can we bring a book signing to people?
And still make it an experience.
Yeah, and still make it fun.
It's not just a book signing, but an experience. So,
and like I said, in some ways, this is actually a bonus, because I will spend far more time with somebody during virtual signing than I can ever do. I was telling people last night, the last book signing I went to, I signed for 8 hours.
Wow.
They shut the room down, and then I went and signed some more in the bar. But all those people got about 2 minutes with me. Yeah. That was all I could do when I could see a sea of people waiting. And I'm like, look, I know you've been in that line and you probably need to go to the bathroom by now. And so I'm trying to, and I knew that I had a hard stop because that ballroom was getting made into a party room for that night. So I was aware I had to get through that line in a way that, and I end up feeling guilty. Like, hi, what's your name? I hope you're having a good day. Sign your name. Here's your book. Bye. Like, it feels transactional, and that's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah. So where will you be going if anyone is interested in seeing you in person? Where are these 3 trips that you have planned?
So Book Bonanza, which is, in my backyard, basically in July, we will be going to Readers on the River in Louisville, Kentucky in September. Both of those events are already sold out. I know.
Wow.
They both sold out. Like,
I think people are so excited to just be able to go places again.
They're ready.
And then I'm going to Love in Vegas in late October, which is at Planet Hollywood in Vegas. So
fun. Nice.
Yes. Looking forward to that.
Hell's Kitchen, baby. That's
yeah,
where we're going.
We want to go to Hell's Kitchen. We're easily amused.
Nice. We have a question from Rich. It's actually a good question, asking about the translations for your books. So your books have been translated into different languages. Is this something, do you sell your translation rights, or do you also handle that yourself? And what languages, Rich is curious about which languages you've been translated into.
Foreign translation is one of those things. From an indie perspective, I have not dipped my toe. I still have an agent who does my audio and my foreign. It's one of those things that I feel like if I'm going to take it on personally, again, the way I want to do everything is right. I want it to be done completely and appropriately and correctly. And I don't yet feel like I know enough about any of those things, and I haven't had the time to tackle them. That's something that's on my to-do list potentially. I'm just not there yet. So for now, I've been selling my rights through my agent. But after the pandemic, so many of the foreign publishers have just not been the same. I've had books translated, French, Spanish, Portuguese, German, Japanese, Russian, Israeli, like a lot of things. I think I would like to get a steadier, at least like French and German translation stream going. It's one of those things I haven't tackled yet.
I think it's very common for that, though, to just sell your rights, because if you're not familiar with the language, it can be very difficult to even find a translator that is affordable but also reputable. Or like, AI translation is not there at all yet. You need a human to be doing this. So yeah, I think that's a good point. That you kind of, I'd be interested to see if you do take on some of those things, if you like. But so do you have much insights into sort of your sales in the different languages then, if it's all done through publishers? No.
No.
Yeah.
No, and that's one of the downsides, frankly, of getting a statement every so often. And I do mean every so often, and especially post-pandemic, there were some, publishers who didn't come to their office for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So getting a statement was.
But it's definitely an opportunity for us. So
It
we're
is
still looking at it.
And it's something that's on the to-do list.
Totally. And I think, our sales in non-English, in particular, have grown since the pandemic. In particular in Europe, I think a lot of people discovering digital reading for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure your books are being read and spotted in different in those different areas as well, no doubt. As we sort of see this influx of people picking up an e-reader or using their phone for the first time to do these things. So how has your print been going actually in the pandemic? That's been an interesting one. Authors reporting that best print years in ages, even with the shortages and stuff. Just wondering how your side of things is.
I think I come at this from a different place because I spent so much time, as a trad author. I always had, the percentage of my print sales was always healthy double digits, and it remains that way. So I think that's what's different. A lot of indie authors, when they're coming at it from having originally sold ebooks and a handful of print here and there. So I've heard some indie authors say, oh my gosh, I got to 5% print this year. That would make me cry. But it's just different because I have that core readership who, likes the
physical book. Yeah.
Well, and not only that, so a lot of them are collectors too.
Right.
When they start a series in print, they want to continue it in print. They don't like the mixing and matching. And I totally get it. If you're one of those people who wants to see it all, and so I've always made everything at some point available in print. Most releases, like this, will come out print and simultaneously. I have some shorter pieces. I write a series called Forbidden Confessions, which I call my sexy bedtime stories. I came to the point where I was like, I'd really like to start and finish a book, between dinner and bed and not be left hanging. Like, I just want it to be done, but I want it to be a complete story and not like a 5,000 word short. Like, I wanted a book. So I couldn't find what I wanted. So I ended up writing them myself. And so I will release 3 or 4 of those, and then I'll put them in a print compendium because I know I have, again, that core audience that really only wants to read a print book, which is totally fine. I wait until I can give them something that's worth buying. You can release those, but I hate to, charge you $12 for something that will take you less than 2 hours to read.
And last year we started getting into hardcovers.
Yeah.
For some special collector editions of some of her works. And I've been surprised. I mean, it's done really, really well. Didn't know what to expect.
Yeah,
right?
At all.
But it's great to see it in hardback. I think some of your Wicked Lovers were in hardback back in the day, and we got to see some of that
through a book club. Yeah,
exactly. But I said we hadn't seen that before. But it's great when you can do a special cover and kind of a collector's edition of one of the fan favorites.
Yeah,
it's great the kind of experimentation that you can do with doing it all yourself and owning all the rights for things. So Shayla, have you continued to be that voracious reader then since you discovered your love of books? You're saying you were looking for this book, so you wrote it.
You know what? I try. My part of my problem is my downtime is in the evening. And when you spend all day looking at words, what happens is whether it needs it or not, when I pick up a book, my brain thinks, oh, we're working. So I need to start editing.
I'm exactly the same.
So I can't, it's very hard for me to read for pleasure. I will do it. I have people who will ask me to look at like a work in progress or a book that's finished, and they want me to comment. Like I had a person recently who reached out to me and said, and it's somebody I know, and she said, I have this work in progress. It's not working and I don't know why. So I read what she sent me and I had some thoughts and I gave it back to her. Like I can do that because my brain will comprehend that. But for me to like sink into a story the way I used to, sadly, I think when you look at words all day, it just becomes a lot more challenging to do that.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So what's coming up next? What can we expect release wise? You've said the events that you'll be at, but what else can we look forward to from you guys this year?
So I will be releasing the second half of this duet. So Wicked is Seduction will be bookended by Wicked and Forever on May 24th.
Nice.
So for everybody who was like, you left me hanging, yes, I did.
Tease, tease, tease.
We're full circle now. You did.
Yeah.
You
That needs to be your new tagline,
right?
The tease. That's exactly.
And then on August 2nd, for the fans who have been waiting, bless them for a few years. The pandemic was not kind to collaborations.
Yeah.
So I had a collaboration that I had been working on that actually started in 2012, and everybody they'd known I would give them a book in this series, it used to be called Doms of Her Life, and now it is called Unbroken. So if everybody's been looking for the next book in the Heavenly Rising series, it's called The Commitment. It will be out August 2nd. Nice. It's just, we can finally start collaborating again in a true collaborative sense. I mean, you can get so far with Zoom, but organically the process of that series just never worked 100% online. We tried. We
especially
really did.
For you, because you're
well, and so Jenna Jacob is my co-author on that series, and she's even more extroverted than me, and neither one of us, like I said, Zoom only goes so far for us crazy extroverts. So
so you have to physically be in the room together to hash this out,
at least to do the plotting parts. Right. We have to have a really good understanding before we dive in and get started. And we had a third collaborator who has since kind of, the pandemic put her in a different place in her life, and she's since moved on. And so we had to, reevaluate everything and relook and redo. So we retitled and recovered, and now we're super happy. So if you want something really hooky and bingeable, and you like super spicy, go look at the Unbroken series. There's a prequel out there called The Broken. And so that will be out August 2nd. And then on November 1st, I will be releasing the 8th book in the Reed Family Reckoning series, which will be called More Than Desire You.
Nice.
And that is the rest of my year. And
set in Maui, by the way.
Set in Maui, yes.
Oh, well, I certainly hope that you went there to research.
Her favorite place in the whole wide world.
So that's what actually started it. We went on our 25th wedding anniversary trip, and it just happened to coincide with
married 25 years.
Well, almost 31 now.
Okay.
But it also coincided with baby's high school graduation and her 18th birthday. So we went to Maui and spent like 10 days. And I walked out of there and I was like, this will sound ridiculous, but I walked out of there and I was like, people live here. I want to write a book about people who live here. That's really awesome. I could live here. And he was like, no, you don't.
No, I lived there. No, you don't want to.
Yeah, I know. He did.
Nice. Rich actually has an interesting question that he's thrown up here as well. A film producer comes to you and say they want a Shayla Black book to be made into a movie. What book do you pick?
Wow, I really don't know. And it would depend on so many things. Like the vehicle, it would be a difference between like a feature film and a Netflix kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I would pick different books for different reasons. The success of things like Bridgerton and then alternately 365 on Netflix open you to being able to do things that are sexier, which probably suits my writing style more. If it was, more like a film, then I would say something more along the lines of a Reed Family Reckoning book. They're not as sexy. They're still sexy, but they're very much more emotional and family driven. So you could probably get around, and they're all standalones. They're connected standalones. So you can pick any one of those. But, in my heart of hearts, would I love to have, a Wicked and Devoted duet made into a movie for Netflix? Yeah, that would be pretty awesome.
Or HBO Max.
Or
any of those.
Do you have casting ideas in mind? That's one of our favorite things here internally is when we're going through the romance books that are coming out is just saying which celebrities we think the cover people look like. So it's like a good game for us.
I'm so horrible at pop culture. I'd never look at anything like that. I don't.
I told her I'd take care of all the casting.
Oh yeah, he wants to be every
I will do
hero.
all the casting. It'll be fine. I'll save you some money. I'll save you some money, Shayla Black. I mean, the production budget will just
pass.
All right. Well, my last question is about so Kobo Writing Life is turning 10 this year. So I want us to travel back to 2012. Let's try and remember what it was like back then. Gangnam Style gave the world an earworm, and we were all doing that dance. The Dark Knight Rises was the biggest movie of the year, and the final book in the 50 Shades trilogy had just been published. So what I want to know is, what were you doing, both of you, and what stage of your author career were you in, Shayla?
I was dipping my toe into, I was still obviously publishing traditionally, and I think I was still writing Wicked Lovers books. I also I started 2 series. I co-authored a series with Lexi Blake called Masters of Menage, and that launched in 2012. And I also launched the first of what has become the Unbroken series with Jenna Jacobs. So both of those series launched that year, and I was writing a few other, re-releasing some of my titles that I'd gotten rights back to. So I was really dipping my toe in the indie pool in a bigger way. I think Masters of Menage and Unbroken were actually some of my first forward written titles rather than, backlist titles that I put out as an indie author. The other thing, 2012 was the year that I came to him with my presentation, my spreadsheet, and I was like, so he actually was home with me by Thanksgiving that year.
Wow.
So those were like some of the big things that we were working on in 2012. And I feel like it's just so crazy to think about the difference, of every decade and where publishing is gone. And the changes just keep accelerating. So frankly, I keep expecting change to continue to accelerate as we continue. I just don't see that stopping.
Nice. Where do you have any predictions about where things will go?
I'm interested in some things. I have some friends that we talk about things like NFTs. That's really intriguing. I'm thinking, I'm doing myself I'm doing like boxes twice a year now. I just launched the pre-order for my summer vacay in a box last night. So I've got that going. I feel like some of the future is going to be, I'm waiting for somebody to figure out that happy medium between almost like making your book a music video, if you will. Like I'm waiting for that happy medium where there's some acting, some music, a lot of that is gray areas contractually, because even with traditional publishers, they don't own a film right. And they, even your audio publishers, they own the audio narration, but if you were to set it to music or video, they don't own that. So like I'm waiting for somebody to figure that kind of formula out, because I think it'd be something that would open up the world of fiction to a lot of people, and make it, especially for younger generations who, are more TikTok oriented, to be interested in a longer feature, book that's almost, like I said, like a longer music video style, something engaging in multiple senses and layered, and just something that they can sink into for a few minutes and be like, I got a whole story.
I love that idea. I think you should do it.
I would love to. I'm just like, I feel like I'm technically challenged. If I knew more technically.
Tara, this is when I would come in, because as a graduate of Rock Band Academy, I am gone from beginner to medium now. So amazing. I'm pretty damn good. Especially what's my go-to song?
I don't know. You have a few you don't like.
Tragedy by the Bee Gees. That's it.
Oh.
So I can help you out on that. So
yes, Barbara says like a mini musical.
Exactly. Like shorter, but yeah.
Yeah. I love that idea. So it would still be sort of like maybe shorter content wise than your like novels that you're writing, but a way to be ingested in sort of a musical capacity. Yeah, that's super interesting.
Where like you could almost do some of the introduction and a few things. So the only things you might see acted out or hear narrated are like key conversations or big action scenes, or you know what I mean? Like you'd hit the high points kind of, and everything else would be, I don't know. I'm interested to see what the reception to something like that would be.
Kind of like Rock of Ages, but more of a
but short.
Yeah.
Nice. And through an app, I assume, of some sort.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I said again, the technical parts of this escape me. I can see it in my head. I just don't know how to make it work.
The rights are the issue. The rights are the
Yeah,
issue.
with having like several different rights going on, it could get complicated.
Well, and music and actors and yeah, voicing and like
there may not be enough money to go around to pay everybody.
Yeah, and then how do you monetize it? Yeah, exactly.
Well, William, you can write the music.
Well, thank you, Tara. I
do not encourage this.
I mean, she loves my original songs,
no.
Tara.
Oh, he does original songs on the fly.
And no, it takes me. Oh wait, I got it. I mean, it's amazing how quickly they come.
Just say no.
I think it'll be a great success. I don't know what you're
talking about. A 1, 2, 3, no. Exactly.
Stop.
Exactly. Oh, so where can people go to find out more about you and more about your books?
Of course, ShaylaBlack.com. I've always got, I've got a print book store. I've got some merch. I've got some cool things. I have some bookish merch if you just like bookish things. And then, of course, you're always welcome to join the newsletter, and you'll get exclusive. Today was full of freebies. There's always lots going on in my newsletters and frankly in my world. So ShaylaBlack.com is the best place to start. If you're looking for interaction on Facebook, just look up Shayla Black Book Beauties, and we're live every Wednesday night at 9 Eastern.
And we're live now on 3 platforms thanks to StreamYard. We're on YouTube, or your major fan page on Facebook, and then the Book Beauties as well. So
exactly,
easy to join, easy to pop in and say hi and listen to the zaniness that we might come up with each week.
Yeah, I love it. It is a fun time every week. And Laura has dropped in links to your books on Kobo there as well.
Thank you, Laura.
You mentioned your merch. Actually, I miss going and seeing all the merch that's available in the different events and conferences. What's the most fun thing that you've made?
So I have things like here. I have everything from like, I did this for fun. Like I have Shayla Black mouse pad. I think some of my favorite, I have series for, I have t-shirts for most of my series that I, personally enjoy, but they're more like, for people who are already readers of that series. But I have things that are tote bags. I have some that say like, reading is dreaming with your eyes open. Just some cute bookish sayings. So if you're that person who just, is looking for a cool, tote bag or blanket, I have beach towels. Like I have all kinds of stuff that I think they're just fun. So I get a lot of people who just, love the bookish merchandise. I think one of my favorite things though, is that night shirt. I have a night shirt that says, reading is dreaming with your eyes wide open. And that seems to be a pretty popular item too.
Nice. I love that. It must be so fun having to come up with like different merch and new things to make.
It's daunting sometimes.
It is.
Though,
it is
because it's trying to come up with something original, something new. We're working on something right now with one of your series, which we don't have merch for quite yet, but we're working on it. Yeah. And I think that's going to be really, really cool. Some of the Boxcar Bill stuff's pretty cool too.
Yeah, he has his Boxcar Bill persona, hats and t-shirts and the mugs. The mugs are always really popular too. And people are like, do you have, the plastic wine cups with the, lids on them? And like, I'm waiting for my vendor to come up with that because I could do a lot with that. Like that would be fun.
That would be very fun. The ones that keep it cool as well. Like a thermal.
The little insulated ones. Yeah,
exactly. Awesome. Well, that sounds so fun. Well, thanks so much for joining us. This has been really wonderful. And thanks everyone for the comments and questions throughout. We'll be back again next month. I think we're going to do a Kobo specific chat next month, and we'll be back with guests afterwards. So William, Shayla, thank you so much for your time. Really, really had a blast chatting to you.
That was so much fun. Thank you, Tara.
Thanks, Tara. And thanks everyone for joining. It's been awesome.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye.